Hello everyone, my name is Khassoum Diop. I am a EFL teacher and trainer from Senegal. I'm very happy today to share with you this topic about using WhatsApp to teach receptive skills. And just to go straight down to the issue, I'm going to share with you the learning outcomes. So we expect at the end of this session that participants discuss the issue, the use of social media in ELT, and then we analyze the stages of a reading of a receptive skill lesson on WhatsApp, and at the end we reflect on a lesson plan for a receptive skills in your given context, just to see how we can adapt it based on your needs and the needs of your students if ever you are using WhatsApp to teach receptive skills. Now, but before that, let's just talk about the context in which we, West Africa country, is using this social media to teach English language. Before the COVID-19, we used to teach with some educational tech tools such as smartphone and a speaker with a Bluetooth speaker, just for teachers in low resources context to deal with listening comprehension. Or sometimes we can use our laptop plus a video projector to deal with a reading comprehension. All these are just trying to integrate the technology into our classroom, even though we are in lower context. But with the development of social media that include our students being very tech savvy, very digitally literate, we are obliged now to incorporate this social media in our educational system, in our classroom. That's why Facebook and WhatsApp and Twitter sometimes will resort it with teachers in order to integrate this with the technological tech tools that we used to use. And more importantly, now, after the breakout of the COVID 19 with the lockdown measures and school closure, teachers and students were obliged to use their imagination and creativity in order to continue the teaching and learning with the resources available. I mean, the resources in technology are the computer, the smartphone, WhatsApp, and Facebook. They just try to see how they can integrate this in this context of pandemic in order to continue teaching. And that's where the idea to teach using WhatsApp came from. And teachers were very creative enough and very courageous enough to try their experience with their students using this. And with the COVID-19, then it was quite an obligation to resort to distant learning or virtual learning. Now, with the resources like a smartphone and WhatsApp and Facebook, it was easier for teachers to try to develop that. But now in this presentation, I'm just going to see how we can share this practice now with students and teachers that want to learn through WhatsApp. And here is an example of how we could teach reading comprehension using WhatsApp. And to do that, we need some prerequisite, we need some preparation, some arrangement from both the teachers and the students. Now, here are some prerequisites I need to focus on in order to successfully deliver a lesson on WhatsApp. First, the teacher needs to set up a virtual classroom on WhatsApp. It can be from the initiative of the teacher or from the initiative of the students. It depends on. But when the students created their own WhatsApp group, they can just invite the teacher to join. Now, when the teacher joins, then the class on the WhatsApp stopped to be a group of students, but now it becomes a classroom with a teacher in it. Then the teacher need to negotiate and arrange the best time and best date for the session to take place. And here he can just ask the students which date and which time is most suitable for them to have the session. Now, since it has become a classroom, the teacher need also to negotiate some rules and routine to have a very successful virtual class. And here he can negotiate and agree on a set of criteria, a set of rules and routines for teachers and students to abide by in order to deliver the online class. Then from the teacher, then he needs to design his or her own lesson plan. Like a physical class, the teacher on a virtual classroom needs to design a lesson plan. He or she needs to prepare their activities and instruction on a picture format. And here I insist on a picture format. Sometimes it's better to have it on a picture format, or you can also have it in a writing format, but I would suggest to have it in a picture format. I will show it later on when I am going in the demo lesson. And also, it's better to use a computer when we want to deliver the lesson. It is good to use a smartphone, but there you need to be very, how can I say, very skillful in digital literacy, very skilled in using your smartphone when you want to do it with your smartphone. But I would advise to use a computer. It's more convenient and more appropriate. Then, when I agree on with my students about the date and the time for the session, I need to remind them. For instance, when we are on the D-Day of the session, I need to remind in the WhatsApp group. Then we'll be starting in half an hour, in an hour, 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 20 minutes, 15, 10, 5 minutes, so that students are online and try to be ready for the session. And before the session start, I also ask them that I also tell them that they can use a written message or a vocal message to answer and interact with their students. Another thing to mention is that students should know that they can be working in groups or in pairs as well. It's possible. It's just a matter of informing them beforehand that they can be invited to work in groups or in subgroups. And while now I'm about to start, I can ask my student to show their virtual hands in an attempt to call the roll. Like I was in a physical classroom, I call the roll to identify who is missing, who is attending. Like here also, I can do it just to make sure that people are attending en masse. Now, as I said, in the preparing phase, the teacher need to design his or her activities and then ready to be used. Now, here are my activities I'm going to use in this lesson of a reading comprehension. I have task 1, task 2, task 3, 4, until task 7 with a post-reading phase. So as you can see, in the task 1, in the lead in, I have a picture. In the picture, I have a kind of crossword game I already designed with a picture that I can send in the WhatsApp group for students to ask the questions. And here, for instance, I have the vocabulary teaching. You can see I selected my words, I give the definition, I highlighted the pronunciation, but all this on a picture format that I can use later on. The second activity in the pre-vocabulary teaching. And I have also another activity in the while reading, which is finding a title. As you can see, I designed my questions, but instead of using a written message, I prefer to put it on a picture that people can see and easily do with instruction. Here I have another activity. It's about information transfer. You see, I designed my activity on a picture, on a chat, and I transform the word format into a picture format that I can use later on very conveniently and very easily. The last activity in the while reading is a true or false activities. Instead of writing the messages, the sentences directly on the WhatsApp group, I wrote it on a word format and I transformed the word format into a picture format that I can send easily with instruction. You will see why it is important to have it on a picture format and not on a written message. You will see that when I'm going to demonstrate that. And we will end with a post-face activity. So in short, as I said a while back, before dealing with the lesson on WhatsApp, we need some prerequisite. First, we need to create a WhatsApp group. We need to arrange best time, best date. We need to arrange and negotiate rules and norms, but also, and most importantly, the teacher need to have a lesson plan. He or she need to design he or her activities beforehand and on a picture format, not on a word format, but on a picture format to be used very conveniently. Now let's demonstrate. Let's demonstrate. For instance, I'm about to start my session. Here, I put on the WhatsApp group, please, students, show your virtual hands. I'm going to start my session. I can do that and wait for 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5, it depends on. Now, when I do that, here are the reaction of my students. I can see one hand here, two hands here, the students Malal, the students Mr. So, etc. So when the students start showing their virtual hands, it means that they are ready for the class to start. So I can ask many more hands to be shown up, or even I can start with what I have. But most importantly, all the students who are online show their hand so that I can be ready starting off my session. Now, the first activity is the leading. Is the instruction. Remember, I already have the picture. Now I send the picture with the instruction. For instance, here, I have the picture here and I write the instruction. So it is very convenient to use a picture with the instruction. So you just send the picture, but before sending the picture, you need to write the instruction so the students can see. They have a picture, but also there is an instruction to see. Here I ask them to write the first word they can see. Now look at the reaction. Here are the reaction of the students. Here you can see infectious, sanitizers, break, pandemic, mask. So those are the words they can see from the word game. And here the teacher can have the opportunity to give feedback instantly using emoji or just making some comment like wonderful, excellent, well done, and good job. And here also you can see my students are working on group. Here I have group 1, group 2, and group 3. It means that I can invite them to work in groups to think of pair and then to have someone to report in the bigger group. Like I was in a real physical classroom where I can have the students work in pairs or in group and at the end have somebody to report. So I can organize this in this WhatsApp, but it all require at the very beginning to set up the subgroups like you created the bigger groups. Now, when I am going with my lesson, I need to contextualize. I need to tell to my students that they are going to do either a listening comprehension or a reading comprehension. Now, here is the instruction. I say to my students, I can send a vocal message, or even I can write. I can write. I say, so now you are going to read the text and answer to my questions. And sometimes also I can use a question like to predict what they think that is the text about. I ask them, for example, in your group, can you guess what the text is about based on the first activity, which was about to write the first word they can see. Now here I'm just trying to check the background knowledge they have based on the word they see. But before I go for the reading, I have to teach them vocabulary. So here I choose 5 words or 4 words that I want to teach. And then here online, I first try to give the word and the definition. Then I insist on the pronunciation. I drill the pronunciation, and then I ask students to read the words and to pronounce it correctly. Then I send the definition of the words in the groups, and they take down notes. And also I can ask them to read while they are looking the different word and the way they are pronounced. After the teaching, there's the testing. I give them a short passage where they have to fill in the passage using teenagers, lockdown, outbreak, and anxious. So here also, it's very important to use a picture format, for instance. Here, I send them the picture, but before I send the message, I have the possibility to write the instruction. For instance, here you can see, in your group, use the words from the list below to complete this following passage. So before I send the picture, I have the possibility to write the instruction. Now, once I am ready for the picture and the instruction, I can send it directly on the group, and then you can see. Here are the answers from the students. They say outbreak, lockdown, teenagers, anxious, outbreak, lockdown. And here, what is important is I can give feedback instantly while I receive the message. So remember that they worked in their subgroup. These answers were given in their subgroup before I asked them to report in the bigger group. So they first think, share, and pair in their subgroup before I ask them to report in the bigger group. And then I give them the required time. It can be 5 minutes or like 7 or 8 minutes, depending on the level I am teaching. Now I have dealt with the vocabulary. Now I'm going to have the active reading. Then I send the text. Remember, the text should be on a picture format. I had it on a word format, and then I have to transform the word format into a picture format. And here is the text that I have. Being a teenager is difficult no matter what, and the coronavirus disease is making it even harder with lockdown, school closure, etc. until the end. So I send the text on the bigger group and I ask them to read silently for 2 minutes, 3 up to 5 minutes depending on the class I have and the level I have. Now, after the silent reading, now I'm going to ask them questions depending on whether they work on pairs, alone, or just in group. For instance, in the active reading, I ask the students I ask the students to find the most suitable title for the text. So this is instruction, and then I give them the task with the same format, picture format. I already designed the word format, but I have to change it into picture that I say in your group, guess which could be the main idea for the text. So I send this picture with the instruction, and then I let them complete with a given time, like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? Another activity is the same with the chat information. I ask them to complete this chat from the text. I already designed my activity on the word format, then I transform into a picture. So here you can see, before I send the picture, I have the possibility to write the instruction. I say, in your group, complete this chat with information from the text. Now the students, they are working in their respective groups and they answer there. First, they work alone and they work in their respective groups before they report in the bigger group. So, for instance, here I had some students work in their group just to to complete the chat with this information. Here, one student sent lockdown, school closure, practication in class, anxious, create a distraction, and there in their group I can give feedback. Either I can use an emoji with a clapping hand, or I can write with a written message, and then I give the feedback in the whole group. Still, I can answer them to report in the bigger group like I did in the first activities. Now, I'm going with the last activity is about the true or false statement. Here also, I give them the required time with the activity to be done. And remember the same format. I had the activity on the word format that I transform into a picture and I have it like this. Before I send this picture that contains the true or false, I write the instruction. I write the instruction before I send the task. I say here, all the sentences are false. Justify from the text. Now, here, the students, while they answer, they just write their answer. Sometimes I can ask them to speak if I want them to speak too. It depends on what I want them to do. And this is how I proceeded in the active reading phase. Now we are going for the post-reading phase, the writing or the production project. Here I can give the exercise synchronously or asynchronously, for instance, because sometimes, it might be a little bit time consuming. I can say, well, next time before you come, please do the exercise at home. It's asynchronous. And I said, based on a previous grammar lesson, expressing recommendation we should, I ask them to make some Facebook post. They go to their Facebook post and to give some recommendation just to sensitize against the spread of COVID-19 using should. We should, we should, we should. Or sometimes I can ask them to use their WhatsApp profile. After having the post done, they can use their WhatsApp profile to write the recommendation, and I can see. Because I have their numbers, I can check their profile. I can see whether they did the post or not. So I can either use the Facebook, or I also can use the WhatsApp just to see how far they do the assignment. And remember, the assignment can be done synchronously or asynchronously depending on what exactly I want them to do. Um, Now, here is the end of the demo lesson. The practical lesson is over now. Now, I am here I just try to compare what is the difference between the face-to-face lesson and the face-to-face class and the online classes. We have some contrast and some similarities. For instance, for the similarities in both classes, whether it is face-to-face or virtual, we use some traditional materials. We use a text, sometimes if it is reading, or we use an audio if it is a listening. And we follow the same stages of and procedures like the lead in, the context, pre-vocabulary teaching, active reading, active listening, and the post reading or the follow up. And we can also have the grouping, and also we have productive skills. I mean, the writing also, it can be included. Now, what are the differences? The difference is with the virtual classes, I need to set some clear rules and routines from the very beginning because I cannot see them. I don't know what they are doing, but I need to make things clear so that we can do the class accordingly. And I can use some emoji for feedback, some very animate emoji, some very live emoji, instant emoji, and that's something very fun, very fun. And I have to design some posts for the question, and most important also the time constraint as I said, because we might face some connection issues. I can extend the time for those students who want to continue the task. I can extend the time, for instance, to help them carry out the task. So I think this is roughly what I wanted to say about this session. I think now we have the time for question and answers.